Parental alienation causes confusion. It can cause a sense of powerlessness, which is kind of odd because some people think I'm empowering my child by letting them decide and have these choices through a parental alienation situation. And really, it just makes your child feel out of control. Welcome to Gavels Down, Voices Up, where we flip the script on conventional legal discussions. I'm Rachel King, here to guide you through the murky waters of family law, estate conflicts, inheritance disputes, all of the dramas. We're not just talking about law, we're talking about how it affects your life, your rights, your future, and your money. From the courtroom to your living room, we bring you insights that matter. Dive into each episode ready to challenge, learn, and grow. Ready to change the dialogue? Let's begin. Gavels down, voices up. So last episode, we talked all about parental alienation. And today, we're going to talk about the emotional consequences that parental alienation can have on your child. Because the bottom line is, you're all in for your child. Whether you are intentionally alienating, unintentionally alienating, or being alienated, I would say that every single parent thinks that they're doing what's best for their child so their child can turn out the best possible way, right? We're all trying to get through this parenthood journey in a way that has us raising functional, successful next generations. So let's talk about how parental alienation has affected children and what it is likely to do to yours. Let's recap real quick and just remind you that parental alienation is where one parent drives a wedge between your child and the other parent. So it could be between you and your child if you're the one that's being alienated, or if you are unintentionally alienating, there is a wedge being driven between your child and the other parent. Really to a point where your child rejects you or the other parent. And this is different than something catastrophic happening or just kind of how you guys have always gotten along. When we're looking at this rejection, it's really sudden. It's totally out of the blue. And it's not because something catastrophic happened or something that pissed off your child or you guys got into it, right? Then maybe there's just a little distance. There's really no identifiable reason that your child would be pulling back and rejecting you. If that's what's going on, then it is time to look at parental alienation. So go back and listen to the last podcast, but today we're going to talk about what effects this has on your child. So really everything that goes on in childhood can affect your child as an adult. I always think it's interesting because my memory of my upbringing is quite different than my parents' memory of my upbringing. And some of the things that my mom and dad and stepmom and stepdad did that had profound positive impacts on my life, they don't recall at all. And probably some of the things that they thought were totally inconsequential had like travesty effects on me. In fact, one time, my dad and my stepmom took my stepsister and I out to buy guitars. And for whatever reason, we were promised these guitars. I think we went to, some guitar factory and we got to go shopping. It felt like we spent hours and hours there planning all of this activity, the family band, the whole nine. And then when we left, my dad said, well, I'll come back and get the guitars. And we never got the guitars. This was something that my sister and I talked about throughout our childhood, and still probably today, we would both know instantly. For whatever reason, that really seemingly ridiculous promise that as a parent, I say most parents probably make, like it was an activity to go look at guitars. It was like this fantasy idea. We were probably playing on what would actually happen. But for my sister and I, it meant so much because for the first time, it felt like we were all coming together and working on one thing. And when it didn't happen, it was devastating. It actually had both of us raise our children thinking we're never going to promise something that we can't deliver. At the same time, I remember when I was in high school, I thought I knew best, and I decided just not to come home one night. Yeah, that didn't go over very well. You can imagine when I came strolling up the next day, I was in a ton of trouble. And then I had to go to school. And somewhere right before lunch, I got a hall pass that said to come to the office for lunch with my mom. And I was terrified. I was like, oh, here it is. She's going to take me to lunch and lay into me, and my life is going to be over because I did this horrible thing. I didn't come home and I didn't tell her where I was. And I got in the car and we went out to lunch. And all she did was ask how I was doing. And we had small chat. We talked about absolutely nothing worth anything. And I remember leaving when she dropped me off at school and thinking, oh my God, life is going to be okay. And forever with my own children. And what I remember so much is that even though I'd done this horrible thing, she just wanted to take me to lunch and tell me she loved me and support me. And you know what? I told her that story. I said, Mom, that was the single most important thing I took away from my childhood was how you handled that situation and how much you supported me. Now, don't worry, I did get in trouble, but it wasn't then. She didn't even remember that. Can you believe it? Okay, so I say all of this. I went off on a total tangent, but to tell you that memory is different. And what your child remembers is going to, and how they were raised in childhood, is going to affect the rest of their life. And that is true of parental alienation. Let's take a quick break. If you're navigating the twists and turns of divorce, you might be wondering, getting divorced, now what? That's actually the title of my upcoming book, designed to guide you through the challenging and emotional process of divorce. It's packed with real-life stories, expert tips, and motivational insights to empower you every step of the way. While it's not available just yet, you can join the waitlist to make sure you don't miss out. Head over to rachelkingattorney.com to sign up to be the first to get a copy and enter to win a free signed copy as soon as it releases. Arm yourself with the knowledge to move forward confidently through this challenging time. Now let's get back to the show. Parental alienation causes confusion. It can cause a sense of powerlessness, which is kind of odd because some people think, oh no, I'm empowering my child by letting them decide and have these choices through a parental alienation situation. And really, it just makes your child feel out of control. It makes them become the pawn in a conflict that they don't want to be involved in. And that's awful. And it can make them feel like they have to choose sides. If I say I want to go to dad's, mom is going to be so upset, so sad. She's going to think I made a wrong decision. She's going to miss me. She hates dad. She's going to judge me, all of the things. But really, your child just wants to be able to go over to dad's house. Even if they don't like dad, they don't want to be feeling your feelings through themselves. They just want to have their own feelings. And it can make a child feel very, very conflicted and like they are in an impossible situation where they are going to cause both parents pain. And I would be willing to bet that every parent that participates in parental alienation on either side of it, that is what they're trying to avoid the most, is causing your child pain. So not only is parental alienation causing your child pain, it's going to have long-term effects for the rest of their life. Is that what you're trying to do? I don't think so. Kids that are subjected to parental alienation can develop feelings of anger, distrust, not trusting either parent. That includes the one that's alienating. Over time, it can result in attachment issues, separation issues, long-term anxiety, and it can affect, maybe you know this, their ability to be in a romantic long-term relationship in the future, all because you intentionally or unintentionally alienated your child from the other parent, or you were alienated. And that's awful. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine, no matter how annoyed I get with my children's father, ever doing something that would end up causing them to have an unsuccessful relationship later on. Like, even if I don't like him, even if I think he's a bad parent, and I don't, but all of those things, I don't want my children to not be able to be a functional parent or partner because of the stress that I caused them. So as you're reflecting on whether you are the alienating parent or alienated parent, think about how this is going to affect your children long term, and maybe work backwards on how you can take steps to minimize the long-term effects on your child. That wraps up another episode of Gavels Down, Voices Up. If you found value in our discussion today, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs these insights. Your engagement helps us grow and impact more lives. I'm Rachel King, thanking you for listening and reminding you to speak up, because every voice deserves to be heard.